I am not playing with you. Put down the fork, close the laptop, set the alarm for later, because what I'm about to walk you through is genuinely the most jaw-dropping, soul-crushing, emotionally devastating interview I have ever watched in over a decade of covering this league. Mikal Bridges, Iron Man, the human Iron Curtain, with 638 consecutive games played, the longest active streak in the entire NBA. The same guy who got benched in the first round of the playoffs, dragged across national television by Stephen A. Smith, labeled a bust, written off as a catastrophic waste of 5 first-round picks, sat down on SportsCenter tonight and completely came undone. We're talking tears streaming. We're talking barely contained rage. We're talking bombshell confessions that are going to rattle the entire Knicks organization straight down to its bones. I nearly knocked my whole setup off the desk when I processed what I was actually hearing come out of his mouth. So strap in, because this breakdown is going to take a while, and I promise you, every single word is worth your full attention. Hey, what is up, everybody? Really fast before we dive all the way in, that like button is literally the engine that decides whether this video reaches hundreds of people or tens of thousands. 1 top, 1 second, enormous impact on how far this content travels. So please just hit the like button right now before you forget. It genuinely is the simplest thing you can do and somehow the most powerful way to support what we're building here. Every like pushes this further into the algorithm, so do not sleep on it. Now, here's the context you need. Mikal Bridges was booked for a routine pre-game segment on SportsCenter with Malika Andrews ahead of tomorrow's Game 1 against Philadelphia. Standard pre-playoff check-in stuff. Discuss the matchup, share some excitement about advancing to the second round, maybe briefly acknowledge the rough stretch against the Hawks and declare it in the rearview mirror. That's the script everyone assumed he'd follow. That is emphatically not what unfolded. Malika opened by congratulating Bridges on the series win and asked him how he was feeling stepping into the Sixers series, and Bridges just paused. He sat there a full 5 seconds, eyes dropped to his hands, completely still. And when he finally lifted his head, his eyes were visibly red around the edges. Not full tears yet, not quite, but the emotion was coiled right behind them, building pressure like a dam about to give way under years of weight. And then he said something that turned the entire SportsCenter studio into a vacuum of silence. Malika, before I even get to Philadelphia, I have to get something off my chest right now. Because if I walk out of here without saying it, I'm going to explode on that court tomorrow, and not in any kind of productive way. Malika gave him a slow nod and held her breath with the rest of us. What came next was the most brutally raw, painfully honest, heartbreaking, and ultimately uplifting thing I have ever heard leave the mouth of a professional athlete. The last 3 weeks have been the hardest stretch of my career, Bridges said, his voice carrying this quiet weight that somehow hit harder than shouting would have. And I do not say that lightly, because I have had some brutally hard stretches. I have played through injuries that never made a single injury report. I have played through personal circumstances that would have quietly destroyed most human beings.
I showed up for 638 consecutive games, because that is not a streak to me, that is my identity. That is my character. That is my word to this game. Rain, shine, banged up, emotionally wrecked, I am always there. No exceptions. And what did I actually get in return for all of that? I got pulled from the playoff rotation, sitting on that bench in front of my family, in front of the whole world watching. Coach Brown yanked me in Game 3, and I sat there through the entire second half while we lost by a single point. 1 point. And I had to just sit there, stone-faced, knowing every single camera in that building had its lens locked on me, hunting for a flinch, hunting for a grimace, hunting for anything they could package into a headline. He shook his head like he was still processing it. I didn't hand them that story in the moment, but I'm handing it over right now, and that's the second the dam completely broke. That's when Bridges went straight at the media, and specifically, he went straight at Stephen A. Smith. And listen, he did not come to play nice. Stephen A. Smith got on national television and told the whole world the Knicks overpaid for me, looked right into the camera and said, "Yo, Mikal Bridges, what, they gave up all those assets for you and you're just gonna coast?" He brought up how Miles McBride was sitting at a +29 while Bridges was drowning at a -26, and made that 56-point swing the centerpiece of his whole takedown. And here's the thing, Bridges didn't even try to dodge it. He wasn't wrong about those numbers. I was absolutely horrific in Game 3. 0 points, 0 for 3 from the field, 4 turnovers, -26. The worst performance of my entire professional life across 638 games. So no, he wasn't about to stand up there and act like it never happened. But here's what actually got to me, Malika. Here's what burrowed under my skin and stayed there. He leaned all the way in. Stephen A didn't just go after my game, he went after my worth as a person. He compared the Knicks trading for Bridges to the Lakers landing Luka for a first-round pick. He stacked that up against the Rockets snatching Kevin Durant for nothing but second-round picks. Basically told the entire country that Mikal Bridges is the single worst trade value in the whole NBA. And he said it grinning, like he was genuinely enjoying the front row seat to the collapse, like watching Bridges suffer was must-see TV. And then the tone shifted completely, because this is where Bridges' voice started to fracture at the edges. You want to actually understand what it feels like to hear all of that? Let me walk you through it. He was alone in his Manhattan apartment after Game 3, rewatching the highlights by himself, and Stephen A's face filled his screen and those words came through the speakers. And for the first time in his entire career, doubt crept in and sat down. I genuinely sat there and asked myself, am I the reason this team doesn't win at all? He said he had never, not once, entertained that thought before. In Phoenix, he was an all-defensive anchor. In Brooklyn, he was dropping 26 a night. And now here in New York, the loudest basketball city on the planet, he was curled up on his couch at midnight wondering if everything he'd built was a lie. That is what Stephen A's words did to me, and I need him to actually hear that. I need him to grasp that what he says doesn't just disappear after the segment ends. A real human is on the receiving end of those broadcasts, and that human being was in genuine pain.
Then something shifted in the room because the interview stopped being emotional and became something else entirely. Because Bridges started pulling back the curtain on his teammates and the hidden tensions inside that locker room, and nobody saw what was coming. I love this team, and I have to say that first because I mean it with everything in me. He said he would go to war for every single one of them. Brunson, KT, OG, Josh, Mitch, all of it. But I made a promise to myself to be honest, so here it is. There are things that go down behind closed doors that never make it outside. And one of those things is that not everyone on this roster had my back when things got dark. He stopped, visibly wrestling with the pull to walk it back. But he didn't walk it back. When they sat me down in Game 3, I waited, genuinely waited, for my guys to pull up on me, throw an arm around my shoulder, look me in the eye and say, "We're in this together." And some of them did, and that part meant everything. Brunson didn't even hesitate. He was right there the second that final buzzer hit. Kat picked up the phone that same night and called me directly. Josh Hart sent me a whole novel of a text at 2 in the morning. 2 a.m., bro. OG showed up the next morning before practice with coffee in his hand, like he already knew what I needed. Those four showed me something real, something that goes way beyond basketball. But listen to this, there were other guys on that roster, and I won't put anybody on blast, but they absolutely know who they are, who went 2 full days without saying a single word to me. 2 days. I'm out here with my career on the line, my reputation hanging in the balance, my entire legacy being questioned, and certain teammates couldn't even fire off a 2-sentence text? That cut deep. That wound hurt me far worse than anything Stephen A. Smith has ever said about me on television. The studio went completely silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Tim Legler, sitting right there on the panel, looked like someone had just pulled the rug out from under him. Chiny Egwamuk, sitting right there on the panel, looked like someone had just pulled the rug out from under him.
Instead, you told the whole world you weren't concerned about me, and every single person watching heard it. Then came the moment that nobody in that studio, nobody watching at home, saw coming. Bridges shifted into talking about Knicks fans, and bro, I'm not even gonna pretend, this is the part where I felt something personally. Knicks fans, he said, and he looked dead into that camera like he was speaking to every single one of them individually. I owe you an apology. When I came to New York, I stood up and told you I was going to be the guy, that I was bringing a championship back to Madison Square Garden. But this season, my numbers haven't come close to backing up that promise. 14.4 points per game, the lowest output I've had since my second year in Phoenix. And I know you see it, I know you feel it, and I know when I'm on that floor and the shots aren't dropping, the thought creeping into your head is, 5 first-round picks for this? And honestly, I can't even be angry at you for thinking that, because if I were sitting in those seats, that same thought would be running through my mind. His voice dropped to something quieter, something more stripped down. But here's what I'm asking you to understand. This has been the hardest season of my career, and the reasons stretch far beyond anything happening on the court. I have never once jogged back on defense, not one time, not one possession. I have never given anything less than every drop I had in the tank. And if you want proof, pull up Game 6 against Atlanta. 24 points, 10 for 12 from the field, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 block. That is what I look like when everything is firing and the machine is running right. That right there, that is the real Mikal Bridges, and I am telling you right now, that is the exact guy showing up against Philadelphia. Then Bridges pivoted to the Sixers, and listen, this is where things got different. This was a side of Mikal Bridges I have genuinely never witnessed before. Tactical, aggressive, locked in. Tomorrow night is personal for me, Bridges said, and you could feel the weight behind every word. I grew up in Philadelphia. Great Mills, Allentown, those are literally my streets. I know that city in my bones. I know every corner of it, and I know exactly what Tyrese Maxey is about. I have guarded him before, up close, face to face. He is fast, he is explosive, and hold up, he just averaged 26 points against the Celtics. He dropped 30 points and 11 rebounds in a road game 7. A road game 7, people. The kid is a certified problem. But here is the thing about Maxey that nobody is talking about. He is 25 years old. He has never been in a second-round playoff series, not once. He has never played a game at the Garden in May when that crowd is shaking the floor so hard you feel it rattling inside your ribcage. And I am going to be the one guarding him, personally. Not Miles McBride, not Kevin McCullers, me. Because that is the exact assignment Coach Brown brought me here for. That is why the Knicks traded 5 first-round picks. Not for 14 points a game, for defense, for the lockdown guy, for the person built to suffocate the best player on the other side. And tomorrow night, girl, that is precisely what is about to happen. The interview cut to a commercial, and when they came back, something had shifted in that studio. Gone was the vulnerability, the rawness, the emotion that had been sitting right on the surface. What replaced it was something I can only describe as cold, focused, terrifying determination, like the lights behind his eyes just changed color. "Let me tell you what is going to happen tomorrow night," Bridges said, and his voice was pure ice. "We are walking into the Garden, and that crowd is going to be the loudest it has ever been because our fans have been starving for this moment. They watched us grind and struggle through Atlanta. They watched me get benched, watched it happen in real time. They watched Stephen A. demand everybody's heads on a platter, and they still showed up anyway. They still believed, and I am going to repay every single one of them from the second my foot touches that court." Then he said something that made the hairs on my arms stand straight up. Embiid just came back from an appendectomy 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks. He put up 34, 12, and 6 in Game 7, but he also went 2 for 9 in the fourth quarter when it mattered most. He bumped knees with someone in Game 5 and had to disappear into the locker room. He appeared to suffer yet another knee issue down the stretch of that same Game 7. The man is an absolute warrior, and I respect everything about him, but his body is screaming at him to stop, and we are going to make him earn every single point, every single touch, every single breath. Between me, Kat, OG, and Mitch, we have the most versatile and dangerous defensive frontcourt in the entire NBA, and we are fresh. We have not played since Wednesday. Philly just survived a brutal Game 7 in Boston on Saturday and now has to turn right back around and face us on Monday. That back-to-back schedule is going to be absolutely punishing for any roster dealing with a big man fresh off the operating table. Then Bridges finally walked straight into the conversation nobody could stop having: his contract. $150 million, he said, giving that slow, deliberate nod. I already know that number is living rent-free in everybody's head every single time I step on the floor.
Every missed jumper, every careless turnover, every moment I'm parked on that bench, fans are running the calculations. That's a $37.5 million guy right there, and he just went scoreless when the playoffs are on the line. I hear it. I see the tweets. I read every article. And you know what? Let them keep talking, because that contract isn't just a reflection of my past, it's a down payment on my future. And my future looks like helping this team hoist the championship. Maybe not this season, maybe not the next, but before this deal expires, I will be standing in the Garden watching the New York Knicks raise a banner. And when that moment comes, every single person who wrote me off, every analyst who called the trade a disaster, every fan screaming to ship me out, they're all going to have to swallow every word they said. And trust me, I will remember every one of them. Bridges closed the interview with something that landed like equal parts warning shot and ironclad vow. Stephen A., I know you're locked in right now, watching this. You always are. And I already know tomorrow morning you're pulling up a chair on First Take to dissect everything I just said. You're gonna break it down frame by frame. You're gonna deliver your verdict. And honestly, that's fine. That's literally what you get paid for. But here's the one thing I'm asking you to do differently tomorrow. Instead of cataloging everything you think I can't do, just watch what I actually do. Watch me suffocate Maxey on defense. Watch me knock down shots when it matters. Watch me bring the kind of energy that makes Madison Square Garden physically tremble. And then, after the final buzzer sounds, after we've stolen Game 1, you go on your platform and say whatever you need to say. Praise us, bury us. I genuinely stopped caring because this entire experience taught me something
My
real
validation
about
is
myself.
not coming from Stephen A. Smith. It's not coming from any media outlet. It doesn't even come from the fans, and God knows I love those people. My validation comes from standing in front of a mirror and knowing without question that I left absolutely everything out there. And starting tomorrow night, the whole world is about to witness exactly that. Now hold up. Let me give you my complete breakdown of everything Bridges just said, because this interview has the power to completely reshape his season and possibly rewrite his entire career narrative. First, the raw transparency about Stephen A.'s criticism hitting differently, that was genuinely unprecedented. We exist in a sports culture that constantly drills players to ignore the outside noise, stay off their timelines, and tune out every talking head with a microphone. But Bridges just stood up and admitted out loud that the noise nearly shattered him. That after Game 3, sitting alone in his apartment, watching Stephen A. dismantle him on national television, he genuinely questioned whether he was built for this moment. Listen to this. That kind of vulnerability from a professional athlete on a national stage is extraordinarily rare. And honestly, I think it makes him exponentially more relatable, more layered as a human being, and somehow infinitely more dangerous going forward. Because right now, this man is playing with absolutely nothing left to lose. The worst already came and went. He got benched. He got humiliated on a national stage. He got labeled the worst trade in franchise history. So tell me, what exactly can they do to him now? Nothing. And listen, a man with nothing left to fear is the single most dangerous person you can put on a basketball court. Second, those comments about teammates not checking in on him after the benching are about to send shockwaves straight through that locker room. Bridges was careful. He didn't drop names, but make no mistake, he absolutely knows who showed up for him and who left him on red. Brunson, Cat, Hart, and OG all got called out by name as guys who genuinely had his back, which means whoever didn't reach out, whether that's role players, assistants, or coaches, is now sitting under a very bright microscope. And heading into a second-round series against a team that just pulled off one of the most improbable playoff comebacks you'll ever see, that kind of internal tension can either weld a team together or completely crack it apart. My personal take is that Bridges' raw honesty is actually going to pull these Knicks closer, because now everything dirty is out in the open. No more sugarcoating, no more hiding behind rehearsed media smiles and sanitized press conference answers. The Knicks are fully exposed, and honestly, that might save them. Third, the coaching criticism Bridges delivered was surgical, measured, but it landed. He didn't call for Mike Brown's job. He didn't say the decision to bench him was wrong. What he said was that the communication was flat out disrespectful, and he is 100% correct. Standing in front of cameras and saying, "I'm not concerned about him," after you just sat your $150 million player in a playoff game is genuinely one of the worst coaching PR moments I've seen. Brown could have communicated that same lineup decision in a dozen smarter ways that kept Bridges' confidence intact while still explaining the move. That's a real leadership lesson for Brown, and if he's half the coach I believe he is, he absorbs it and grows.
But hold up. The fact that the Knicks' offensive rating was measurably worse with Bridges on the floor compared to McBride during Games 2 and 3 is a real, undeniable problem that Brown had no choice but to address. Finding that razor-thin balance between protecting his player emotionally and actually winning playoff games is the defining challenge of everything that comes next. Fourth, and this is where it gets really good, Bridges' matchup breakdown against Philadelphia was genuinely brilliant. His pointing out that Tyrese Maxey has literally never played a second-round game at Madison Square Garden in May is a real, tangible psychological advantage. The Sixers are going to roll in riding pure adrenaline and miracle comeback energy, but they are also going to be running on fumes. They played 7 games in 12 days. Let that sink in. Embiid is managing multiple injury concerns at the same time. Paul George gutted through an illness just to get there. That short turnaround from Saturday's Game 7 to Monday's Game 1 hands the Knicks a rest advantage it cannot be overstated. And Bridges, who was essentially a ghost for huge stretches of the Hawks series, might genuinely be the freshest, most motivated player stepping on that floor tomorrow night. If Brown opens the game with Bridges locked onto Maxey from the very first possession, that single chess move could define the entire series. Here's the truth, plain and simple. Knicks Nation, Mikal Bridges just showed the entire world exactly what he's made of. Not the ESPN highlight package version, not the box score version, the raw, unfiltered, real version. A man who's been knocked down over and over but keeps getting back up. A man who's been publicly embarrassed but refuses to let it break him. A man carrying 638 consecutive games on his back, a $150 million contract around his neck, and the crushing expectations of an entire city on his shoulders. And instead of folding under that pressure, he's turning every single bit of it into pure rocket fuel for what could absolutely be the series that defines his legacy. Tomorrow night, when those Madison Square Garden lights blaze up and that crowd erupts and the opening tip goes into the air for Game 1, Mikal Bridges is going to be standing on that floor with ice in his veins and a point to prove. And if you thought the Hawks series had you on the edge of your seat, hold up, because you have not seen anything yet.